Hey everybody, how are you doing today? Hope you are doing well. Thank you for being here. This is Romans 7, the seventh iteration that puts us a week in. So for those that have been here for all of them, I really appreciate you taking a part of that. For those that haven't, welcome. I'm glad you're here for this one. Like I said, I've done Romans 1 through 6. So if you want to go back in the feed and check those out, that'd be great. If not, that's okay too. If you've got any questions or any specific topics that you want to talk about or cover, I'd like to make this more interactive. You can comment in the comment section or send me a message or whatever. And or if you have any suggestions for other books of the Bible that you want to hear about or talk about, we can. I'll take those as well. At this point, just looking at Romans. So as we move forward. I'd love to hear what you guys want to do on that, and we'll go with that. Please share this out with your friends list if you can, if you're willing. I feel like the reach I've got is probably, it's not as big as it would be is if all of the people that actually watch this would share it, and then we can reach more people that way. So I'd appreciate it if you would share it. So today, like I said, we're talking about Romans 7 picking up. We finished up with Romans 6 yesterday. So verses 1 through 4, and you can tell from this, and I'm kind of learning from this, that Romans was addressed to, at least, if not exclusively to Jews in Rome, but at least a good population of them was. Because we talked about yesterday how you die to sin when you come to Christ. And then this section talks about how you die to the law as you come to Christ. So the Jews were very big into their laws and practices, and they had laws to keep you from breaking laws. And so the Old Testament, I think, has over 600 laws, different things that you were supposed to follow to be a good Jew. And so the first part of this, and a good chunk of this, talks about how there's a tension between what we want to do and what we should do, but the first, this first section talks about how we're no longer bound to that law. We're not held to it anymore. It's a new covenant. So the old covenant, the Old Testament, talks about or set up basically a list of rules and laws that were supposed to be followed. And showed the correct way to live your life and kind of guidance on that. But as you know, in our flesh, and we'll talk about it more later in the chapter, in our flesh, when we hear that we're not supposed to do something, it just makes it that much harder not to do it. And everyone, I've seen and heard lots of examples of this, of how, don't think about this or don't do that or whatever. And so this chapter kind of goes into that nature of ourselves. If we've got this group, this list of laws that we're not supposed to do, and we're studying those and learning those so that we know not to do certain things, we have a tendency to do those things. That's kind of what this goes through. And verse 5 talks specifically about that. Our sinful passions are aroused by the law, by just hearing that we're not supposed to do something arises some natural response of wanting to do that, and so that's the tension in the battle that we live in. So based on that, it asks in verse 7 is the law what's wrong? Is the law evil? And a quick response is no. The law is the true guidance as to what we're supposed to do. But because of our flesh, our body, and its response to that is what allows evil. Satan's always waiting for an opportunity to jump in and try to lead us down a wrong path. And verse 6 talks about how we're released from the law. Again, it's an old covenant. It was replaced by the covenant of Jesus Christ. And he died to seal that covenant. His blood sealed that covenant. And so we're not necessarily held to the law anymore. And Not that it's bad or we shouldn't follow it or we shouldn't know it, but we're held to follow Christ as closely as we can, and just to fall in love and have that relationship with Him, and not to follow a list of rules. 7 also points out that we wouldn't have known what sin looked like. We wouldn't have known what was right or what was wrong without the law being in place. And it specifically uses covetousness. And then the King James specifically uses, coveting your neighbor's wife, and how, that not knowing that was wrong is one thing, but then after having learned that it was wrong, the desire to do it anyway is another thing. And verse 8 talks about how sin will seize an opportunity through a commandment. So again, if we're trying to do the right thing, we're trying to learn what the right things are, sin's going to come in and try to lead us astray by, just putting those things in our mind. And Satan's a liar. That's what he does. I mean, that's the first thing he did in the garden. He's going to say, well, is it really that bad if you do that? Or is it really a sin if you do that? And so that's just how Satan works. He's going to take every opportunity that he gets. In verse 10, it talks about the very commandment that promised life proved to be death in me. So this law was supposed to produce life and good things. But again, our resistance to it and having to fight that brings a death about in us. Verse 15 says, "For I do not understand my own actions, for I do not know what I want. For I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate." And I think we can all really identify with Paul here. We know what we want to do. We know, how we're supposed to do things, and we know the difference between right and wrong. But in our flesh, we do the things we know we shouldn't, and we don't do the things that we know we should. And I think that's true for all of us. We have that our flesh pull inside of us, and we have to fight that and give that over to God. Verse 18 even goes as far as to say that nothing good dwells in us. That as humans, our flesh is evil. What makes us up is evil. For we can have the desire to do what's right, but it's a different thing to have the ability to actually carry that out. Verse 21, it says that when I want to do what's right, evil lies close at hand. So when we're trying to do the right thing, Satan's going to be there to try to lead us down the wrong path, to distract us, to tell us that if you do that, it's going to be a really awkward situation. You don't want to put yourself in that, or you might be in danger, or there might be something that you haven't thought about, or should you, or maybe you should pray about it first. And anytime we try to do anything for God, Satan's going to try to distract us and pull us away from that. And I think that's just something we have to be aware of as Christians, to be careful of that, to be mindful of that. And when God's pushing us to do something, Satan's going to be right there to try to distract us and pull us away. In verse 23, it talks about the struggle of our flesh versus our desire being a war, and how basically parts of us are at war with other parts of us. Our inner being is at war with this new life that we're trying to take on as Christians. And then verse 24 says, "Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death?" Basically, the whole first part of this chapter, 1 through 24, just talks about excuse me, talks about this tension between, who we are and who we want to be, our flesh and our spiritual nature, and how they battle it out. And then it comes to kind of a head here at 24. It says, I'm just so wretched. I'm so terrible. Who's going to deliver me from this? And then 25, right there says, thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord, so that I may serve the law of God with my mind, but my flesh I serve the law of sin. And so this chapter for me is just kind of pointing out that there's a tension, and that Jesus is going to kind of help us get through this tension, and it's our job as Christians to be aware of this tension and to fight the good fight. It's not necessarily going to be easy. Every day is going to be a struggle, and every time you try to do what God's called you to do, Satan's going to come in and try to distract you. And that's what Satan does, and that's what we're going to continue to do as Christians, is to fight the good fight and try to do the right things, and try to be a witness in the world, and try to lead people to Christ, try to help people, try to love each other, and be that Christian that we should be. So that's all I've got from Romans 7. We'll do Romans 8 tomorrow. Thank you for being here, for watching this. Again, share it with your friends if you don't mind, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.